Hi everybody, Kat here. Welcome to my channel. It is Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day in America. Happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. Well, today we're going to be talking about The Crown. A week ago, the first 4 episodes of season 6, the final season, were put up onto Netflix. Have you seen it? I'd love to know what you think about it. I watched it, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, season 6 deals with Diana after divorce, her fling with Dodi, and of course the tragic end to it all. I must say it was done pretty tastefully. It wasn't gruesome. It wasn't, they didn't take advantage of the situation to make it worse than it could be, Is it worth watching? In a word, I'd say yes. Cinematography, as every episode has been, absolutely fabulous. The acting, the actors, the cast. I think it's Elizabeth Debicki was spooky. She played Diana very, very well. It was believable. It was, down to her mannerisms, and it was really good. It's a good watch. Now, as every series of The Crown has come out, we've got to talk about, well, is it true? Is it, some people watch it and they think it's a documentary and it's full of lies and it's, their opinions all over the place. Well, let's get one thing straight. Okay. The royal family, from way back when up till Diana's death, a lot of things have happened. There's been a public story, the one the public hears. There's been things that happen around behind the scenes that in some cases we don't know about till, 60 years later. For example, like the Duke of Windsor, when he became king, the main reason he was pushed off the throne, and he was pushed, he didn't go voluntarily, it wasn't all about his love for a woman, Wallis Simpson. He was basically found out to be a Nazi sympathizer and plotting behind the scenes against the British government. That didn't come out till maybe 10 years ago or something, over, 70 years after, 60 years after his death, 60 years after the events happen, we find out the truth of why he was kicked off the throne. Things like that. So there's always going to be speculation, anything to do with the royals. There's always going to be spin. There's always going to be what we see and what really happened. We don't know everything about them. Look at the people that are trying to write books now or trying to find out information about the royal family now. You can't get a freedom of information request because the royal family is immune to those kind of things. They lock up the information in the archives and you may never know what's really going on. This is how they operate. So when you come to something like writing a series like The Crown, we know the basic historical events as they happen, but we don't know all the scuttlebutt behind the scenes. We don't know in the motivation of people, or, we see what the event looked like. Is that what's really going on? This is so, as the writers and directors of The Crown, they have to take a look at the events, take a look at the stories that were circulating at the time, different opinions about said events, and you got to pick one, and you got to go with it. And this is what There's been controversy, with season 6 because it involves Dodi and Diana and all the controversy about their relationship to begin with. I mean, at the time of her death, there was, a group of people, saying, oh, they were engaged, they were going to be married, there's a ring, there was even talk that she was pregnant. Oh, they are going to live in Paris at the previous home of the Windsors that Mohammed Fayed now owned. Oh, they're going to be moving to California. There was all kinds of speculation. And with the Crown, they have to pick, they have to pick a storyline and stick with it. Now, here's the thing. In the Crown, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, they kind of make Dodi's father, Mohammed Al Fayed, out to be a baddie. They don't go as far as some speculators of how bad he actually was. I mean, what they do, they're cut and dried. There's a lot of controversy, enough to fill the series, about Diana and Dodi, and not even go anywhere near the controversy over her death. Some people think she was murdered. Some people think it was a conspiracy. Different investigators that believe that it was purposeful blame certain people. The Crown very prudently didn't even wade into that. Thank heavens for that. I mean, the controversy just between Diana and Dodi was enough. So now what we have to understand is a couple things about the main characters. Mohammed Al Fayed, originally from Egypt, came to Britain. Now, he was a very, very rich man. He owned Harrods department store as well as the Ritz Hotel in Paris, 2 huge pieces of real estate. Now, he always wanted to be accepted by the British government and by the British royal family. He always wanted and never received British citizenship, let alone an MBE or an OBE or some other kind of honor. What he really wanted was British citizenship. He was, although rich, not well regarded amongst the elite in Britain at the time. He had had some shady business dealings, some shady involvements that by the British elite was considered, a little too unsavory to invite him into their club, let's just say. So he was always looking for a way to ingratiate himself with the royal family. He publicly never missed a chance to say how much he loved the royals and respected the Queen and all of this. He was, a bit of a brown noser. As it turns out, he was a very good friend of Johnny Spencer, the Earl Spencer, Diana's father. They were very good friends. So Diana had known Mohammed Al Fayed for years. She had met Dodi previous to that summer. So it wasn't like she was unfamiliar with things. Now, that was not the first time that Mohammed Al Fayed had invited Diana on a family holiday. He previously, a couple of years, had invited her, and she'd always refused. This year, she was kind of at a loss. It was a year after her divorce. She'd been going through a lot of personal things. This is why she decided to take up the offer, even though friends of hers told her not to. In fact, a couple of weeks before, well, no, actually, it was between holidays. She took the boys and went on to holiday with the El Fayads in France at their villa on, I think, the Riviera or something. So we've got those pictures of them there, and then out on the yacht and stuff like that. Then she comes back to England for a while. She goes away for a week with her friend Rosa Monckton, and even though they're harassed by the press, they do manage to get 5 days of relative peace and quiet holiday in. She comes back to England again, goes off to Bosnia, does the landmine project, and then she heads back without the children because they're heading to Balmoral. She heads back onto the yacht with Mohammed Al Fayed. Now, he makes sure at the time that Dodi's around, right? And to entertain. Well, actually, Dodi was around when the kids were there as well. So the kids did meet him and all of that. Now, when they're alone, there's all this speculation like, oh, this romance just blossomed in 6 weeks' time over the course of 6 weeks. Well, out of that 6 weeks, she only saw him like 12 days or something. So it wasn't like, but anyway, now here's the thing. We got to understand the motivations of some people. We know Mohammed Al Fayed, and it was written this way in the Crown, that, basically his thoughts were that, gee, if he could snag the Princess of Wales for his son, the royal family would have to show him some respect. Basically, that's the premise of what they said, and it showed him to be quite manipulative. Like he was the one that said they were engaged to be married. He was the one that said they were so in love. He was the one that said they were gonna, live at the Villa Windsor outside of Paris. He's the one that said she was pregnant. And, he's putting forth a story because, and even while this whole thing was going on, he was kind of behind it trying to pull strings. We know that Dodi was weak. What do we know about Dodi? Really not a ton. He won an Oscar for Chariots of Fire many, many years ago. Like to think of himself as a movie producer, although that was, daddy's money behind that one. And that was really one of the only real acclaim he ever had. He was basically a very rich and shiftless playboy that liked his cocaine. In one sentence, that's Dodi Al Fayed. He wasn't really well respected. He was not the kind of person that you'd expect Diana to be with, or that you'd want her to be with if you knew about him. We know that for sure. Yeah, he did get a ring at Reposey. Whether he was going to propose to her or did or not, we don't know for sure. So, of course, in the Crown, they have to take their own tack on that as well. What we do know is that she was in communication with Paul Burrell, her butler. She was in communication with Richard Kay, the columnist, the news reporter, up to the day before she died. They all claimed that there's no way that she was going to marry him. She knew there was a ring. She knew that this was forthcoming. And, she said there's no way that she was going to become engaged to him. Looking at the speculation of whether she was pregnant or not, well, Rosa Monckton said that she'd been on her period when they had their holiday. So it's impossible. She couldn't have been pregnant. A lot of these speculations were coming from the Mohammed al-Fayed camp. He also claimed that they were murdered, and he gave his reasons why. You know, the Crown was smart not to even go there. You know, that's a whole nother. There's been 1,000 documentaries with evidence on both sides of the fence, and it's up to you to look at it and decide for yourself what happened. But yeah, so basically, and you know, we got to understand Diana at the time. Diana at the time had just come out of a 2-year relationship with Hasnat Khan that had been, it was one of her few affairs that was kept secret. That one never leaked. He was the heart surgeon. He stayed at Kensington Palace a lot of the time. Paul Burrell will tell you this. Richard Kay will tell you this. She was in love with him, and presumably he was in love with her. He was an Indian. He's from India. His family, very traditional family. They would go out in public, but she'd wear wigs and disguises and this and that, so they could go amongst the public and have like a normal date night. That's not normal when you have to go out in disguise. But anyway, so the gist of it was they had a big blow up just a few days before she left, because she wanted him to allow their relationship to become public. He didn't want to be Dr. Mrs. Diana, Princess of Wales. You know, I mean, he would never be respected for his own endeavors again. He'd always be, you know, Diana, the Princess of Wales boyfriend, right? So it would diminish him. And his family, very traditional family, they did not want him to get involved with her, because although they liked her as a person, I suppose, but they didn't want the drama, they didn't want the hubbub, they didn't want the circus that, you know, having Diana in the family would involve. And Hasnat didn't want that. So they break up just before this whole summer holiday season happened. And so she goes off, and what's basically said, I think Richard Kay has said it and others have said it as well, that her behavior with Dodi, the kissing, the, you know, taunting the photographers and getting those photographs published, and was a ploy on her part that, in a rather juvenile move, she wanted to make Hasnat Khan jealous. Now, what we know about this time, the day before she died, she had spoken to Richard Kay. The day of her death, we know there was a call from Hasnat Khan to her phone, which she did not, you know, didn't answer. We don't know what was in anybody's heads at the time. We can pretty much guess that Diana she wasn't going to marry Hasnat, or she wasn't going to marry Dodi. It was a summer fling. It was fun. She was using him to get back at Hasnat Khan. Nobody could have anticipated how terribly things turned out. Mohammed al-Fayed used their short fling and subsequent tragedy to try to elevate himself once again. So, he wasn't beyond using their death for his own enrichment, as many people have done. But, so there we go. That's kind of my thoughts. I thought it was really good. I am not opposed to the storyline. I do think Muhammad al-Fayed was a manipulator. The depth of his manipulation is something to speculate about again. And there's been lots written and talked about that if you want to get into it and research that. But I would recommend watch those first 4 episodes, and I'm looking forward to the rest of them coming in mid-December. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment for sure. And if you'd like to support me, you can buy me a coffee. The link's in the description. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great day, everybody.